Hey, I'm Blair Best. It's Monday here on The Story, and tonight, Oregon Senator Jeff Merkley wants President Trump to recognize a Palestinian state following the UK, France, and others who argue it is the best path forward for peace. Plus, an impossible decision for a woman living in Western Washington, how she almost missed her chance to stay in the U.S. for good for fear of being deported. But first, a Southwest Portland neighborhood speaking out about their concerns with a homeless village there. Just the latest community pushback on the mayor's plan of opening low-barrier shelters in residential areas. It's our big story tonight. Multnomah Village, a tight-knit community in the heart of Southwest Portland.
It just had a small-town feel.
The area has always been one of the premier neighborhoods in the city.
But longtime neighbors Patrick Brunette and David Carney-Fenton worry about the future.
So it's been a big change.
All thanks to the Multnomah Safe Rest Village, these 100 tiny homes for homeless people. It opened about 3 years ago.
We see satellite camping, we see drug use and drug sales.
It's low barrier, meaning people don't have to be sober to stay there.
And we're also adjacent to a K-8 school.
Chris, who struggles with addiction and didn't want to show his face on camera, has been staying there since the start.
For me personally, it's given me an opportunity to stabilize my life.
Previously, Chris was living on the streets for 4 years.
You're in a constant state of survival, and it's just a lot harder to make good decisions.
Now, he tells me, he's on his way to permanent housing and sobriety.
There's no way I would have been able to do that being on the street,
Despite Chris's success, neighbors still have ongoing concerns with the site's model, including the noise, bright lights, and what appears to be a lack of security, they say.
There's screaming, threats, fights that happen inside the SRV that people can hear all hours of the night.
Low barrier just doesn't belong in a residential neighborhood, and there's got to be a solution to that.
The site was previously managed by Multnomah County, but in July, the city of Portland took control. The city chose the California-based group Urban Alchemy to run it. That group also runs several similar shelters across Portland.
It's hard to get a hold of them.
A spokesperson for the city of Portland tells KGW our engagement team is very involved with the MSRV neighborhood. There's a few issues we are working through with the neighborhood association and their community advisory committee. Mayor Keith Wilson has a goal of opening 1,500 new shelter beds by December 1st.
The mayor's plan is going to be successful if the neighbors and the neighborhoods that these shelters are situated in are comfortable with them and feel like there's responsiveness. And so far, we haven't really been feeling that.
In a statement, a spokesperson for Urban Alchemy tells us, "We're proud of our partnership with the city of Portland at this site. Our team works every day to provide a Four Seasons-like experience for our guests, and we take pride in ensuring a clean and safe site both inside and the immediate vicinity. We will work closely with the city to address any issues that arise." Okay, those neighbors you just heard from tell me they're now working to band together with other neighborhood associations dealing with similar issues to try and hold the city accountable, they say. Now, if this story sounds familiar, well, that's because it is. Low-barrier shelters like this one are opening in neighborhoods across the city as part of the mayor's plan to end unsheltered homelessness by December 1st. Last week we told you about safety issues surrounding the Moore Street shelter in North Portland. Before that, community concerns surrounding the Northrop shelter in the Pearl District. And despite this neighborhood pushback, the mayor remains steadfast on his goal to open 1,500 emergency overnight shelter beds by December 1st. At last check, he's at 630. But let's talk about Urban Alchemy. That's the group the city puts in charge of running many of the tiny homes across the city. According to recent reporting by the Oregonian, Urban Alchemy is being accused of overspending hundreds of thousands of dollars in one city and fudging data in another. It's an article that we think is worth your time. Here it is. Major homeless services operator in Portland faces loss of funding, money mismanagement in other cities. The article says San Francisco officials have accused the company knowingly overspent hundreds of thousands on pay bumps last fiscal year. The excess spending was revealed during a recent San Francisco City Council meeting. Also in Austin, Texas, where Urban Alchemy runs 2 emergency shelters, city officials there said they are not renewing their contract with Urban Alchemy after staff misreported data on when people were exiting shelters. The article says the city of Portland is aware of these issues and told the Oregonian they have started their own assessment of Urban Alchemy's financial and record-keeping practices. If you want to read more, check it out on OregonLive.com. But when it comes to spending in San Francisco, there's apparently controversy over budgeting decisions and cost of living increases tied to the alleged overspending. But when it comes to that bad data in Texas, an Urban Alchemy spokesperson tells me we identified staff who improperly and without permission misreported homeless management information system exit dates and records. We notified the city after our internal controls discovered the issue and terminated the employees that we identified as responsible. Okay, let's widen our scope a bit tonight. Democratic Oregon Senator Jeff Merkley introduced this resolution in the U.S. Senate, calling on President Trump to formally recognize a Palestinian state. It is the first resolution of its kind, calling for a demilitarized Palestine alongside a, quote, secure Israel. The resolution is co-sponsored by 6 other Democrats and independent Bernie Sanders. Notably absent among those co-sponsors, Oregon's other Democratic Senator, Ron Wyden. While Wyden has called for a ceasefire and aid to Gaza, he has continued to vote in favor of military aid to Israel. Late last week, when we asked Wyden about Merkley's resolution, his office told us, quote, Senator Wyden has not yet seen the resolution. He has long supported a 2-state solution. Merkley's plan calls for an immediate ceasefire, return of all hostages, and an influx of aid to Gaza. He says the only viable path towards a peaceful foundation after those moves is, quote, 2 states for 2 peoples. Merkley's resolution comes just a week after he published this report alongside fellow Democrat Chris Von Hollen of Maryland, which was the culmination of a trip that the 2 senators took to the Gaza border and nearby countries back in August. The title lays out their takeaways in blunt terms. The Netanyahu government is implementing a plan to ethnically cleanse Gaza of Palestinians. America is complicit. The world must stop it.
Yes, I did have the chance to go to Israel, to the West Bank, to Jordan, and to Egypt, and then go to the border between Egypt and Gaza, climb a fire escape to the roof of a 3-story building, get on a ledge, look down on Rafah, and see that a city that not long ago had 1 million people in it, including refugees from the rest of Gaza, has been just reduced to rubble. Not just empty houses with bullet holes in them, but everything blown up. And it was a searing sight. It was one of very emotional moments on a trip full of those moments, starting with meeting with the families of the hostages who are just desperate to see a ceasefire. We need a ceasefire, a permanent ceasefire immediately. We need it in order to get the hostages home. We need it to get massive amounts of aid into a population where the vulnerable people are deep into famine. We need it to create a possibility of building a better future for the Palestinians and the Israelis.
Along with meeting the families of Israeli hostages, the senators visited a community near the Gaza border that became the site of one of the worst massacres during the October 7th attacks. They also visited the country of Jordan, where many humanitarian supplies are stored in warehouses before being loaded onto planes and then dropped into Gaza. Merkley says sending that aid on trucks is the best way to get help into the country. But Israel has crafted a maze of red tape to stop trucks from delivering aid, leading to airdrops. The senators were denied entry into Gaza during this trip and a previous trip last year.
But then we were scheduled to fly with a Jordanian plane that was dropping humanitarian aid into Gaza. And it was canceled as we arrived at the airport in Jordan to take off. The C-130s were all lined up, all loaded, all ready to go, and they canceled it. And our assumption is they canceled it because, again, they didn't want us to witness what was going on. That's why I considered it so important to climb that fire escape, get on top of that 3-story building, get on top of the ledge, and look down and see what had happened to Rafah with my own eyes. It's one thing to see satellite photos. It's another to see it in person and understand this is part of the strategy of ethnic cleansing, not just evacuate buildings, but blow them up so people can't return. I really want to emphasize this is not a good future for Israel or the Palestinians. Israel is engaged in actions that are war crimes. It is turning Israel into an international pariah. I have been a fierce champion for Israel. To be the Jewish homeland, to be supported with economic and security aid. But the same values that brought me to be a champion for Israel are bringing me to be a fierce voice saying what they're doing now is wrong, because this is now the exploitation of another population, the Palestinians.
Merkley's resolution to have the U.S. recognize a Palestinian state comes as world leaders are in New York City meeting as part of the United Nations General Assembly. Just yesterday, the United Kingdom, Canada, Portugal, and Australia formally recognized a Palestinian state. Britain said for its part, it was because Israel failed to agree to a ceasefire. But Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reacted to the move by those countries, saying the establishment of a Palestinian state, quote, will not happen.
We will need to fight at the UN and in other arenas against the false propaganda directed at us and against the calls for the establishment of a Palestinian state. That would endanger our existence and serve as an absurd reward for terrorism. The international community will hear from us on this matter in the coming days.
During today's UN meeting in New York, France announced it too would recognize a Palestinian state. Israel's ambassador to the United Nations responded and also seemed to dismiss any chance for a ceasefire, saying his country will finish the job when it comes to Hamas.
You know, I listened very carefully to the speeches today. Many leaders said we expect Hamas not to be part of the equation in the future. But no one actually explained how it's going to be accomplished, because they know it's only on our shoulders. That's the duty to make sure Hamas will be out of the game. So we will continue, we will finish the job, and we will create a better opportunity not only for Israelis, but also for the Palestinians in Gaza. We want to finish this war. Don't be mistaken. We have no desire to stay in Gaza or to prolong this war. We want to finish with it. But what we saw here at the UN, it's actually supporting Hamas. It doesn't support ending of the war.
Now, when it comes to Senator Merkley's resolution to have the U.S. join the chorus of countries recognizing a Palestinian state, it does not look likely. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said in a briefing today that President Trump disagrees with nations recognizing Palestinian statehood, that it does nothing to end the war. President Trump is expected to talk about it tomorrow when he's scheduled to address the United Nations, and we'll be watching. For more than 20 years, a Washington mother lived in the shadows, undocumented and uncertain about her future. But now, she's celebrating a life-changing moment after finally receiving permanent residency. It may be hard to believe with all of this ICE news recently, but green card approvals are still happening. Sharon Yu shares the story of that mother and what it means for families like hers.
I need a haircut, Lucky.
Carla has checked her mail thousands of times.
I always come with Lucky.
But for the first time in 21 years, she's not scared to see what's inside.
Nothing important? No, not this time.
Early this month, she received her green card, or her legal permanent residency card.
I just open it like crazy, like, is this real or not real? It is or it's not. And I'm like, when I read it, and I was crying.
A month ago, Carla had to make a decision.
Prepare for your interview.
Show up to her final interview at the immigration office in Tukwila or bail. With news of people showing up to what they thought were safe meetings and being detained, she considered not going, especially because she had been undocumented for so long. This is her interview from before her appointment.
It's scared to go back to my country to live in there. It's because we hadn't here always the opportunity to stay better than our country. And I came when I was 19 years old.
An impossible choice between potential deportation to Honduras and waiving her only chance at staying in the U.S. for good.
Now this is my appointment that I'm waiting for so long. I believe in God.
Final interviews like Carla's never used to carry any risks, but with the Trump administration's policies against immigrants and ICE arrests happening after routine court hearings, Carla had to pause before attending.
There is panic and fear and anxiety.
Lita Ray is Carla's immigration attorney.
There's also a lot of discretion in immigration law. And so when we're in a time where there's heavier enforcement and the policies are stricter, there's that uncertainty.
Legal permanent residency is also getting harder to achieve. According to data from USCIS, from January to March 2024, the agency approved 78.3% of all applications. That same period in 2025, it's down 16.7%, with approvals sitting at 65.2%. Prior to receiving her green card, every time Carla checked the mail, she was terrified a letter would say she's being deported.
It's a mail coming shaking all the time. When I see something from there, I'm like, where is this? What is coming in this? What did they say? Until I get everything, but always scared.
But now with this approval letter and a single card, all that's changed.
One paper changed my life. Finally, I'm not gonna get deported.
And Carla hopes her story can give others in a similar situation courage.
If they're not showing, they're gonna get that deportation order right away. So it's better to show and think that everything is gonna be okay.
Well, coming up next on the story, an update on a recall petition filed against a city councilor in the small town of Stevenson, Washington. Why the state's Supreme Court is now involved, and what lawyers have to say about the councilor's topless protest earlier this summer. That's next when the story returns. Well, Chief Meteorologist Matt Safino joins us now. Matt, summer is officially over. It's the first day of fall.
Yep.
I'll be honest, I'm not mad about it.
You know what? A lot of people say that, Christmas is the best time of the year. I think this is the best time of the year.
I agree.
It's just so good. And the forecast going forward also looks really good. But let's take a look back at summer 2025. 90s, first of all, by the numbers. How many 90-degree days did we have? Well, the average number of 90-degree days in Portland in a given year is 15. This year, drum roll please, we had 19.
I was about to give you a drum roll.
Really?
To try.
Can I have one now?
Well, I have something in my hand, so.
That's not bad. I appreciate the effort. Good work, Blair Best. All right, now last year though, look, 19 is above average, but last year we had 28. So we had 9 fewer 90-degree days this year compared to last summer. I think that's significant, right? All right, what about the numbers on the whole? Well, let's check this out. Our average high temperature was 82.2 degrees. That is the 10th warmest. So that's pretty high, right? Warm summer, even with a lack of a lot of 90-degree days. What about, excuse me, pardon me, been talking a lot, so
it's all right.
Dry it out a bit. It's all the warm air. What about our low temperature? This is even more interesting. Our average low temperature was 60 degrees. That's our 3rd warmest summer if you look at the low temperature. So that's significant, and that tracks because I remember us having a lot of warm nights even though we didn't have, a super lot of hot days, right? Okay, all of these, if all of the years, the top 10 for both of those, so all 20 of those years have all come since 2013 except for one. One of the top 10 highest average high temperatures was 1967. The rest of those years, all since 2013. So pretty interesting how things have gotten warmer. Let's look at the last 10 years, the warmest day of the last 10 years. So going back to 2016, 100, 105, of course, the big one was the heat dome of 2021 when we hit 116. But 2 years later in 2023, we hit 108. Now, what's significant about that is, had we not had the heat dome and never hit that 116, that would have been Portland's new all-time record high. But because we blew that out of the water in 2021, still though, significant. And this year, our hottest day was the 22nd of August. We hit 102. So 4 years of the last 10 were a little bit lower than that. 4 years were above that, and then 1 year matched it at 102. That, of course, was, where is it on the list? Somewhere in here. There we go, 2022. So again, yeah, it was hot, but we didn't get the extreme heat that we had in some other years. Okay, let's talk sunset. It's always a big thing this time of the year because it changes so dramatically. Have you noticed it?
I have actually, because I walk my dog when I go home, and now it's pitch black, and I can't go out as long.
I know, it just happens. And the same thing in the morning, too, the sunrise later and later, right? So today, 7:07. A couple of days from now, that's the day when our nighttime hours and minutes will be greater than our daytime hours and minutes. Sunset on that day, September 25th, is at 7:01. The end of the month, it recedes to 6:52, and a month from today, 6:12. And at the end of October, that's when we'll have our pre-6 p.m. sunset. So that's coming up very, very quickly, too. What about the next 3 months? Well, for temperatures, and this is for October, November, and December, no strong signal either way, though. We're going to be extremely warm or extremely cold, so that's good, about average temperatures. And this is also good, better than average odds, that we get above average precipitation in October, November, and December. So looking forward as we go into a La Nina winter, it bodes well for our snowpack, bodes well for our water supply.
Okay, Matt, thanks so much.
You bet, Blair.
Well, turning now to an update on a story that we covered in the small town of Stevenson, Washington, in Skamania County. Earlier this year, a recall petition was filed against transgender city councilor Lucy Losser. And now, the ACLU of Washington is calling on the state Supreme Court to throw that recall effort out. The appeal was filed Friday, and this all started because of 2 incidents this year where Losser protested topless outside of the Skamania County Courthouse. She says the demonstrations were meant to protest discrimination towards the transgender community. Here's video from July 4th. The recall petition says Losser violated her oath of office, which said that she would follow all state, local, and federal laws. Losser was arrested and charged with indecent exposure, though she told us she'll be filing a motion to dismiss the charge. The ACLU argues that Losser did not break any laws during her protests. Public nudity is not illegal in Washington state, and the court filing says Losser participated in non-obscene expressive nudity. An ACLU attorney wrote in a statement, Ms. Losser rightly believed that she was engaged in a lawful protest. This is not a valid basis for the recall of an elected official, and proceeding with this recall petition would conflict with her First Amendment rights. Losser was also quoted writing, "Like everyone else, I have a constitutional right to free speech and expression, which is what I did during my protests to call out the abuse and discrimination transgender people are suffering. Indecent exposure and obscenity involves sexual gratification, which has nothing to do with my actions." We'll see which way the state Supreme Court rules on this, and we'll keep you posted. We're back right after this. Well, that is the end of our show, folks. Thanks so much for watching. Straight Talk is coming your way next. And don't forget, everyone has a story to tell. Have a great Monday night. I'll see you right back here tomorrow night at 6:30.